Well, hello to a surprise Tuesday afternoon stream, break from the regular schedule at 8 o'clock on Mondays. So, we're about to publish the next beta release of Node-RED, the 1.1.0 beta 2. And I thought it'd be interesting just to stream the steps I go through when we want to publish a new release of Node-RED. Twitch were having some weird glitches last night, and it thinks I'm still broadcasting from last night. So I'm hoping by doing a broadcast now, it's going to kick the system somehow to get everything looking well again. So we'll see. Anyway, let's get on and publish this release. So, you don't need to see my IP address. Cool. So what we've got is we're in the dev branch. All the code changes are in that we want to make in, and we're pretty much ready to publish the release. So it's a number of steps we go through to publish the release. First one is around updating the changelog. That's slightly mucked up on here, but so I've got a git command that I normally run on my other machine, which doesn't corrupt the output, like you can see all these numbers, and it basically lists all of the commits that have gone into this branch since the last tag, essentially everything that's gone in since the last release. So normally what I do is I then grab all of that, fix up its formatting, and I drop it into the changelog. And in fact, to save you the boring nature of me just going through item by item and formatting text, I've already done that work. So we just split them up by the editor, the runtime, and nodes. Make sure, try and pick out the items that have come in via pull request and who's contributed them. Which, yeah, partly because we don't do everything via pull request. Dave and I tend to push straight to dev branch when we have fixes. If it's a bigger piece, if it needs a few more eyes on it, then we will do a pull request. Anyway, lots of good fixes have gone in based on lots of good feedback from the first beta. So a bunch of usability improvements, shall we say, with the new features, some fixes. Lots of good stuff. So I've already done that work. That's already committed. That's already on GitHub. If we pull up GitHub and go look at the dev branch. So we don't merge to master for when we're publishing a beta. We just go ahead with we publish straight from dev. So we're in the dev branch. Yep, there was a last minute fix, went in just now. I think we're all happy with that. So the next thing to do is to update all the package version numbers as we're going to publish a new version. Now, of course, I could go through and manually update it. So 1.1.0 beta 1. But because we publish multiple modules out of this one repository, we've actually got lots of package.json files to update. So for example, if I come into, let's say, the runtime, look at its package.json, you've got its own version number, but it's also got its dependencies on the other modules. So that's entirely prone to make mistakes that we neglect to update one of those. So we have a script to do that, and we can do node scripts, which is at set package version, and we're on 1.1.0-beta.2. Just double check that. I always get the syntax wrong when we do betas. 1.1.0-beta.2. 1.1.0-beta.2. Good stuff. So we run that. Now if we look at what's changed, all of the package files have been updated. So not only their own version number, but also or the interdependencies between the modules. So we'll do stage all those, commit 1.1.0-beta.2. Oh goodness. And we push. Now I've already run grunt, I've already run the unit tests. We do have, the unit tests are partially failing at the moment, which is probably bad form to publish a release with failing unit tests. However, one of the things that we've just done is some of the great work from Hitachi contributed to Node-RED is a whole suite of UI tests. So actual test, browser automation UI tests. But we've never included those in our Travis build. It was something you would run manually. Well, we've just merged in to incorporate those UI tests as part of the Travis build. But unfortunately, those UI tests, because they're not being run regularly, have fallen behind slightly. So they are broken on a couple of regards, with some of the new features they've already gone into the dev branch. So we're doing a bit of catch-up work just to get those UI tests working again. But we run the unit tests against multiple versions of Node, but we only run the UI tests against one of them, because there's no point browser testing against each version of Node in the runtime, because there's no interplay between the two. So whilst it isn't ideal, we still do verify that the grunt build passes for the functional unit test of the runtime and the nodes, and we ignore the UI test failures at the moment. Hopefully that will be sorted out in time for the 1.1.0 final release. I know the guys are busy working at getting those tests caught up, which is great. Certainly we need to get the balance right about test coverage and maintenance cost of those tests, but having a good framework to enable us to do UI testing is a better place to be. Okay, so we've updated the version number, we've done the change log, we've pushed to Git. We're now ready to actually build the release. So we run the grunt release task. So this is now running a build just like the grunt dev task does when you're running in development mode. But this time it does the extra step of then building the tar files for each of the modules we want to publish to npm. And not only does that, it also then spits out a script with all the npm publish commands, because we've got 7 modules to publish. It would be, and we have in the past, neglected to publish them all by mistake. So we now spit out a script that I can run in a moment. In fact, let's show you that. So running the grunt release task creates a dist directory which has a zip file containing the source tree and a modules directory containing the 7 tgz files, as well as the publish script. So if I just cut that out. So that's what we were looking at seconds ago in the build output. So npm publish, it publishes each module in turn. Now the key thing is, and because it spotted we were building with a beta version tag, it has automatically included the -- tag option when we publish to npm with the next flag. So that means this doesn't update latest, this updates. So people who npm install Node-RED still get the stable release. That's how we flag it. So people have to run npm install Node-RED at next in order to get the beta. Right, and this is where this first time I'm sort of doing it live, I always talk it through in my head, make sure I've not missed any of the steps. I'm sure that more of this could be automated. We ought to have a checklist really that I run through. It's a bit different because it's a beta we don't want to make mistakes, but and we shouldn't make mistakes, but fewer people will notice if we do make a mistake. And we can always do beta 3 10 minutes from now to fix whatever I muck up. but that hasn't happened in a very long time. Okay, so hey, Board Geek. Yes, you've caught one of my streams live. This was a entirely unplanned, ad hoc stream, unadvertised, that I thought would be useful to do. So, welcome aboard. So, let's just run it through. I've done the changelog. I've done the package version. That's all pushed to Git. Matoko, good. You could join us again. Right, yeah, I'm just going to concentrate, make sure I've done all the steps. Changelog's done. The pushed everything to Git, version numbers updated, pushed to Git. I've run the build, I've got the modules. Right, so at this point, just before I hit publish, we're going to dive over to dev. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to do. I always forget. All right. Git tag, annotate tag, 1.1. Is this the right command? Oh, this is where I. See, we do this rarely enough that I have to always just go and check my notes. 1.1.0 beta 2. Hey, Softy2K. Well, hello from the UK. Let's see. 1.1.0 beta 2. So this is why I always get nervous about doing releases. The more typing I have to do, the more chances I screw something up, especially when I'm live streaming. So git tag, 1.1, yeah. And then git push origin. And done. So let's just have a quick squiz at that. Look at releases. 18 seconds ago, 2 new tags. 1.1 beta 2. Cool. So that's now tagged. Now let's go back into our dist modules, the built modules, and let's publish. So we just run the publish script. And we're publishing beta.2. So that's just publishing each of those modules in turn to npm. We do them in a particular order. We publish the main Node-RED module last, because obviously that's the one that people know to try to install. So we update all the others first to make sure they're all in place first, and then update Node-RED itself. Ah, you're welcome, Softy2K. You know, it's my little side project I enjoy working on. Very lucky to be able to work on as my day job. Yeah, and keep plugging away. So of course now, not only am I trying to publish a few megabytes up to npm at the same time as live streaming and using up all my upload. So it's taking a little long, but we're getting there. Cool, done. So the beta's published. So there's the usual few tasks. Let's just go into a Scratch directory and just check. So npm install node-red at next, because it's the beta we care about. And you can see already in the output, it is, well, it said beta 2 there. So always amazing when this stuff works. So that's going to spool around for a while. Now, ordinarily at this point, I would have the forum blog post in draft, and I would hit publish, so it all happens at pretty much the same time. But I'll do that after I've live streamed. This was, as I say, just meant to be a quick 10-minute live stream, just whilst I get that published, just to step through what it takes. So, well, let's verify. So, Node-RED, and version 1.1 beta 2. My default settings on this computer has trace level logging, which is why the output looks quite so noisy. But key thing is, 1.1 beta 2, and it starts, which was always good. So I think that's everything I was going to do. So the only remaining things is the forum blog post, just let the community know it's published, and we'll tweet about it, and that's how we do a release. Now, if this was a normal release, as in a actual proper milestone release, not a beta, I would have created a release on GitHub and paste in the changelog for this release, but I don't bother doing that for betas. Just in some ways it creates too much noise, so maybe I should, but that's that. Anything else? Well, for those watching, hopefully this is the last beta we do before the final release. Again, that's what we said with the beta 1, but there were a number of issues that people managed to uncover and some really good feedback, so having fixed enough of it, we want to get beta 2 out, because some of the issues for some people in beta 1 were kind of blockers, so at least now people can spend a bit more time with the beta, get some more feedback. Will the docs come with the final release? Yeah, that's always the intention. As I said before, in theory, I switch gears now to getting documentation updated. There's a couple more bits of code I want to work on, and we've got still some pull requests. If I look at the 1.1 milestone, there's still a few outstanding items to address. In fact, though, this exec node one, I can close that because that's in the beta we've just published. So there's a few more items we want to update, get merged in. We'll see how that shakes out. The intention's there. These first three are adding lots of example flows for the core nodes. It's just they've done, our Nishiyama-san's done a great job, but that PR has 12 examples in it. This one has 13, so that's 25 examples, and then this example has 48. And it just takes time to review them all, trying to make sure we are consistent in the style of how we present examples. And there's always a balance between having examples that show the downright trivial versus the examples that show the really smart and clever examples. You want to have a range, but want to try and avoid just filling the examples with something a user wouldn't be able to do just by dragging the node on and trying it. There's a balance to be struck, and it just takes a bit of thought to find that balance. But and there's a huge backlog of PRs to wade through. Some, I suspect at this point, will never get merged. Some are very old and we ought to just go through and tidy up. But there's some meaty big items here that at this point aren't going to go into 1.1, but like the exportable subflow item is a making the workflow around subflows and making subflows artifacts you can share with others, and almost building up to the point where you would be able to publish a subflow to npm and users would be able to install as if they were just a node in the palette. So there's quite a lot going on in that PR, although that's not all of the functionality needed, but that's likely to be a highlight of the 1.2 release, which will come later. So our rough plan, we realise it's been 6 months since we did the last big release. That was partly frankly, I just needed a break after 1.0, and sort of took a step back from the rate at which we've been developing. But demand for some of this stuff hasn't changed. We still need to get it delivered. So we're going to try and set up a schedule of a regular release every 3 months. So 1.2 in 3 months, 1.3 in 3 months after that. And try and be a bit more strategic in terms of how we schedule work and how we slot pieces in. Know that if a pull request doesn't make a particular release, it's not then stuck for an undefined period of time. It's clear that if it needs a bit more work, then fine, it can get a bit more work, and we know it will be shipping in the following release, and we know the rough sort of timescale that's going to be in. But we've tried this before and succeeded to varying degrees. We'll see how it pans out this time. Okay, so that's the beta published. I'd say I'm going to do the forum blog post now, and I'll tweet about it. I will save you the tedium of watching me try and write words. So you'll get to see the blog post, or the forum post yourselves in about 15 minutes. Excellent. Well, thanks for joining. So Motoko, just to answer, I realize I waffled. Yep, there's more documentation to write. We need to update the editor guide to cover groups. The fact you can now add borders to things. One thing you may note between this and the previous beta was we've increased the gap, the margin that the group has, partly because nodes, like in fact this MQTT node, if it has status, and you give a group a title and display it on the bottom edge. It's still a little tight, but in the previous beta, those two bits of text would actually be overlapping, and so that was no good. So we've given them a bit more space. Anyway, I digress. So I need to do some video content to update the user guide, particularly with the new outliner. There's still an open question on whether the configuration node sidebar will get removed entirely. If you followed my stream last night, if you followed my stream last night, you can now see where we ended up. So these buttons tell you how many nodes are using the config node, and if I click it, it opens up the sidebar, and that's interesting. That doesn't look... Oh, I'll tell you why, because I've not actually reloaded this page since I fixed it all. Let's just... That panicked me for a moment, because that didn't do what I was expecting, but I've just realised I've not actually... Again, if you've been following before, I stream from a different laptop to the one I spend my time developing on. And just before I go live, I resync, but it meant I hadn't actually reloaded this browser to show. Right, so if we open up configuration nodes, if you're following the stream last night, clicking this now opens up the search dialog with users and the ID of the node. And now, so I got that working last night after the stream, you now get a list of the nodes that use that config node. So that's what works. So a step forward in making the config node sidebar more redundant. I think there's a bit more style work to be done, but we'll see what the feedback is on the beta. Okay, I've prattled on enough. I'm going to hang up, get the blog post done, and then go and get some fresh air. Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I wasn't expecting people to join. Nice to see you all jumped on when I tried to sneak out a stream without an audience. So have a great rest of your days. Do say hi on Slack or in the forum, and I'll be I'm not 100% sure if I'll be streaming next Monday. So I mentioned before in previous streams, OpenJS World is happening next week. I might be tied up doing another Node-RED online thing, which you'll hear about if it's happening. at the same slot that I normally stream. But otherwise, Mondays 8 p.m. is the usual slot. But as you'll see, if there's something interesting I'm working on, I think it's worth just getting a video up to show what I do, then I'm not averse to just jumping online whenever. Great. I'm stopping talking. Have a great day, guys, and speak to you next time. Bye.